Let's be honest, okay? The Eagles are in a dire situation, and this game upcoming feels like a must-win, but they may have finally received the break that they needed. So we'll talk about the Chargers and also another Charger who is formerly an Eagle that is frustrated with his current role. Could there be a reunion down the line? We'll also talk about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense, more specifically two components that I want to see utilized in this upcoming game that I really think could help them. And a young Eagle stud has completely disappeared. What is going on? We'll talk about all of it here on A to Z Philly, but welcome into the show. I am RB, and let's start it off with our weekly glance over at the NFC standings. Can you believe it? After 13 weeks, the Chicago Bears are leading the NFC. Thanks to the Eagles, by the way. I mean, Chicago came out, they played their game, they were physical, they were tough, they ran all over the Eagles, and they emerged late to win that game, made the big plays. But I still think the Eagles are not playing their brand of football. And despite all that, despite the chaos, how bad it was on Friday afternoon, the Eagles are still sitting in the third seed. They have a chance to get the 1 seed if they would wake the heck up. And let's talk about the Eagles offense. A very interesting stat here from John Clark. The Eagles are 2-4 this season when they have a player over 100 receiving yards. They are 6-0 when they do not have a player get 100 receiving yards. So no matter who it is, man, the Eagles have to open up the field, use their plethora of weapons. There's guys on this team I forgot existed the last couple weeks. Jahan Dotson, Dallas Goedert, Tank Bigsby. Where are these guys at? That goes into game planning, preparation, scheme, all of that good stuff. And I don't want to see anybody out after the game smiling, joking around just because they got 100 receiving yards and they got their numbers. Doesn't matter. The individual numbers do not matter. This is a team. They have to win and lose as a team. And in terms of the Eagles offense, they are currently averaging 15.5 points per game since the bye week, which is just horrendous. I mean, I'm already not feeling well, and it makes me want to throw up hearing that number. But even worse, there's only 6 teams that are under them. The Browns, the Steelers, Saints, Raiders, Titans, and Vikings. That's how bad the Eagles offense has currently been. And I put this tweet out the other day, which received a lot of reaction. I said the Eagles should have given Kellen Moore anything he wanted to stay. A lot of people thought I meant the head coach job, but really anything to stay as the offensive coordinator. Maybe that is more money. Maybe that is more responsibility. I don't know. But the Eagles could have really used Kellen Moore. And there's been a lot of response saying, well, the Eagles passing game was not good last year anyway. They weren't that good. Jalen wasn't that good. They just ran the ball. And Saquon just carried the team. Wrong. That is incorrect. No. Kellen Moore leaned into what worked. There is a difference. Because last year, the Eagles could throw the football. I'm not saying it was all sunshine and rainbows. There were a lot of ups and downs, just like any team in any season. But they showed you that when they needed to, they could. Whether it was the Pittsburgh game where Jalen Hurts came out and said, is this what you want to see? Just because we don't do it doesn't mean we can't. And then in the playoffs, Jalen Hurts came out. He was throwing it all around the field on these top defenses. And in the Super Bowl, the Eagles had one of their best passing attacks all season, and Jalen Hurts made every throw that he needed to make. So again, it was more of the Eagles ran the football last year because it worked. And Kellen Moore was good after week 5 at adjusting to what worked. And what worked this season for the Philadelphia Eagles in a couple game sample size was RPOs and play actions and under centers as well. But Jalen Hurts this year on the RPO is completing almost 74% of his passes with a 107 rating. And in play action, he is 70% completion with a 130 rating. And the Eagles utilized a lot of these components against the Vikings and the Giants weeks ago, and they actually put together some of their best passing attacks of the entire season. So again, it takes me back to Kevin Patullo. Why are you going away from what works? This year, when the Eagles are trying to run the ball or throw the ball, nothing works, and it feels like they're not being creative, and they are so predictable, and that takes me back to Kevin Patullo, who, by the way, now is on a sign this morning, fire Kevin Patullo. So that is how bad it has gotten from the stands at the game. Now on your morning commute to work, everybody is saying to fire Kevin Patullo. And again, I do think it is a collective effort, but a lot of it does fall back on Kevin Patullo. Now, I do want to say this. Don't be an idiot. All right. Apparently, a group of young Eagles fans went to his house last night and were throwing rocks at his house. Don't be an idiot. Don't be a loser, because you make the rest of us look bad. Now, the one guy that is not here from last year is Mekhi Becton, but his replacement, Tyler Steen, has allowed the fourth most pressures among guards this entire season with 27. On the other side, Landon Dickerson is at 24, which is the ninth most. So the Eagles' offensive line has not been holding up their end of the bargain, and that is not something that we Eagle fans are used to. But it gets even spicier. Ahead of playing the Chargers on Monday night, Mekhi Becton is voicing his concerns with how the Chargers have been handling his snaps. He has played 69% of the Chargers' total snaps this year, sitting out multiple series or games because of injuries. And in Week 11, he was sat for reasons he said he did not receive an explanation for. Becton delved into his personal frustrations with how the team is managing his health, which he described as being done a different way than he is used to. He said the Jacksonville game was the first game from which he was pulled without explanation, and that things are different around here and very frustrating for me. So I am going to say this once and once only, but if there is any way for the Eagles to get Mekhi Becton back, they should do it. I know they can't trade for him, but I don't know, demand a release, demand to be cut, whatever it is. We know the Eagles wanted to keep Mekhi Becton, but there were just too many players to pay last year, and he was a great story, and he played his butt off under Jeff Stoutland, who essentially took this guy from being a throwaway with the New York Jets, and he was labeled as a bust, and he ends up turning into one of the best right guards in all of football last season. So the Eagles know how to manage players, like Becton said. Jeff Stoutland, despite whatever's happening this year, has been one of the best offensive line coaches ever. And maybe a change of scenery, bringing him back to Philadelphia, where Becton admitted that he had the most joy playing football, would do wonders for this team. I personally will never forget Mekhi Becton clearing what may have been the biggest hole last season for any running back in the entire NFL in that divisional round game against the Rams, where Saquon had a wide open break for a 62-yard touchdown. Some guys just work in certain places, and Mekhi Becton worked here in Philadelphia. Now, staying on the topic of the LA Chargers, Justin Herbert fractured his left hand yesterday in the Chargers' win against the Raiders and will undergo surgery today, per Jim Harbaugh. Originally, they said it was uncertain if he would miss any time, and then Justin Herbert told reporters that even with having to undergo a procedure on his non-throwing hand, he is treating next Monday night's game as if he is playing. However, if we take a look at what he said after the game, he says it's one of those things where you just stabilize it. I'm not the doctor, unfortunately, but they were hopeful. And he said, I think it's just something that we will monitor as the week goes on. So they already don't sound that confident. And this is the Eagles' break that they needed, no pun intended. Because even though it's on his non-throwing hand, the Chargers are in a playoff race. They need him to play every game that they can. I'm sure Justin Herbert, who is a pretty tough player, is going to do his best to play through it, but you don't think that's going to be in the back of his head every single play? He's probably not going to run it all. He's not going to scramble that much. He is going to be fearful of one of those big defensive linemen, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, whoever, who's been pretty quiet lately. I need those boys to step up and do something. And this could be the break that the Eagles needed. The funniest thing of the Eagles season would be losing to Trey Lance. Like I said, I don't even know if I'm confident in their offense to put up more points than Trey Lance right now, but I think they would end up doing it. Speaking of another former Eagle, by the way, Darius Slay was a healthy inactive for the Steelers yesterday. They say he has allowed a passer rating of 126.7 this season, which is the highest among cornerbacks with 300-plus coverage snaps in 2025. So Howie Roseman made a lot of tough decisions this past offseason, and some of them have not panned out, but getting rid of Darius Slay may have been one that turned out really effective. Now, maybe he should have never left. Maybe he would still be comfortable in Vic Fangio's defense, and is that something you would entertain in the future? I don't know. I feel like Slay's going to retire anyway, but it is crazy to see where he has gotten this season after being a Super Bowl champion and a pretty good corner last year. Last but not least, it is an absolute travesty in terms of what is going on with Jihad Campbell. This is a guy early in the NFL season who we were saying could realistically win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He started in 8 games. He had an interception, 2 pass deflections, a forced fumble, and over 50 tackles. And this guy last week did not even play a single snap. He went from 87% of the snaps in week 7 to 40 the next week, 50 34%, 15% against Dallas, and 0 against the Chicago Bears. I just do not agree with this whatsoever. It feels very veteran-based and experience-based rather than a guy who has been producing very effectively. And I understand that Nakobe Dean came back and he has been playing absolutely stellar. You have to leave him in the lineup, but you're telling me there's no way at all to get Jihad Campbell involved, not even as an edge or just something to help generate more pressure. The Eagles have to get back to playing Jihad Campbell. I don't think Vic Fangio is that type of coordinator who's not going to experiment with young players, but it just strikes me as odd that Jihad Campbell went from looking as good as he did early in the season to not even playing a single snap. And it just kind of adds towards the common theme of this team right now in terms of why go away from what is working. So the Eagles need to utilize all their talent and they need to find a way to get a win next Monday night. We will talk about this game as the week moves forward, but how do you feel about the Philadelphia Eagles right now? Do you think they can get this season back on track? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments section. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, I will catch you on the next one.